All
Good
right.
morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show. We're just at about 7:12 a.m., and certainly we're happy to have you. And for you continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show coming to you live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. We are at this point heading into our first interview this morning, and we should have on the line with us Barrington Skippy Thomas, political activist, looking sharp as ever. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
not sure that he's hearing us.
So, all right. So we probably just
He's
have
not
to double
hearing
check
anything.
his audio. Try. All right. So let's
All
probably get
right.
the technical team to just check in with him there. Rhea, certainly interesting in terms of getting perspectives from the various persons. You know, we've had a number of officials on public officials, those who have been in the public space over time, giving their perspectives in relation to the happenings. And I note carefully, based on the live that he would have done, he certainly has a different perspective, his own views in relation to this matter at hand.
Certainly. And for those persons who would have missed it, this is the opportunity to log on and share the live so you can hear just what, his take on the matter is. But, I would love us to do some type of, okay, I think he's back with us.
All
Yeah.
right. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning. I'm hearing better. Are you hearing me now?
Definitely.
Excellent. Hearing you
Definitely.
now. So I
Yeah,
was
I'm not.
extending you a
Yeah,
warm
sorry about
welcome to
that.
Tobago Updates, looking sharp as ever this morning, on this
Ah,
Friday morning.
well, I had to dress to charm one of the girls at the counter to get a flight, but clearly it did not work. Maybe it's the wrong color tie. I don't know.
All right. So as we get the conversation started this morning, I want to get from you before we dive right in your immediate thoughts. Having heard the voice note circulating within and in fact far and wide on social media at this point, with the voices appearing to be that of top THA officials.
Well, my immediate thoughts on it is that is what politicians do. So my immediate thought is two politicians or some politicians in a room planning a strategy, or to have invoked absolutely no comments or no conversation as is taking place now. Because strategy, which include propaganda and setting the narrative to a politician, is a hammer to a carpenter, a trowel to a mason, a whacker to a landscaper.
Now, there are thoughts, and I hear what you're saying. You're saying that this is all part and parcel of the game of
Yes,
politics. Yes. But what,
yes.
what 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 do you say to those persons who are calling for a removal, calling on the chief secretary to step down, calling on Fali Augustin to step down, calling on the government to take action, or to take action against the politicians involved, the voices involved in this voice note?
Well, I say to those persons, and I've heard some, but just allow me to declare what is my interest in this. And my interest in this is absolutely none, because in fact, um, I have no friends in the executive council, absolutely none. So I have no real interest in this. So I wanted to declare that interest. And in response to your question, what do I say about the voices asking for the administration to step down? And so I say this, that this is a real country at the end of the day. Trinidad and Tobago is a country, a real one. But it's a country that is unrecognizable. It's a country where the systems have collapsed. We live in a country where when the police tell you, if the police come by you, to call the police. That's the kind of country we live in. And politicians sitting in a room doing their job as politicians do, and persons are asking for resignation and stepping down and investigation, those things are petty, and those calls are petty and myopic. And those persons calling clearly have agendas. I suspect what some of the agendas are, but those persons would have agendas, because there is no legitimacy for any reason to step down. And I don't believe at all, not for one moment, that any of those calls are without individual or perhaps collective agendas. But those calls are unmerited, in short.
I want to get your views also. You have operated in a time where you are very familiar with the position taken by former Prime Minister, and I want to get your perspective on that as well. Basdio Pandey, about politics having a morality of its own. Is that something you subscribe to, or you have a varied view on?
Well, I heard and I remember the comment made by Mr. Pandey, but it must be put into its perspective when he said it, because when it is said that and in fact, let me just say this, that politics having a morality of its own is not Mr. Pandey's original works. That was actually said by Nikolai Machiavelli in the book The Prince. So my view on politics having a morality of its own is a statement of fact, because the reality is that the medical profession has the Hippocratic Act to guide it. The legal fraternity has the what is known as the rules of ethics to guide it. I suspect the teaching profession have. So all professions have their code of ethics of sorts to guide it. And politics is rather unique. So politics will have a morality, meaning code of ethics of its own. Because whether we believe it or not, or we care to accept it or reject it, the reality is that politics is the civilized substitute for war.
All right.
A quick follow-on.
The minority. Sorry, go ahead, Julien.
You go ahead, Rhea.
The minority, when this was presented on the Minority Report, the minority may have felt, some say, may have felt as though this was a trump card for them. Was this somewhat of a trump card for the minority, for the opposition, finding or discovering this voice note that is bandied about social media?
I could answer that question with one word, but I suspect it's the preacher in me, or the talk show host in me, or the legal person. But I could answer it with one word, but I choose to answer it with more than one word. The minority leader reminds me of A.N.R. Robinson in the 70s when he departed ties with the PNM. And every week, Robinson would say, I have a bomb to drop, I have a bomb to drop. And when you go to Woodford Square, there won't even a puff. So the answer is the minority leader will gain, have not gained, no political capital from this, and should abandon this nonsense, trivial issue and concentrate his efforts and resources on real issues. Because this is a serious country with serious problems, and it requires serious people to deal with it.
On to the concern where it is persons are saying the bigger issue here for some is the issue in relation to THA jobs and its relevant association with regards to the work to be done, as you describe it, by politicians doing their work. What are your views in that context?
My views are, is that it's rather sad and quite frankly pathetic that the voices who have lent concern to these have always postured to be intellectuals, narrative shapers, academics, and they have not developed the quality to be able to distinguish the issues. Because, here's my reason for that. Simply, if a political party is in governance, and that political party has, because it's important to note, very important to note, that politics is not only about winning election, creating, exacting, and rolling out policies. It's about selling, and that is the propaganda. That is what propaganda means. That is definition in this instance. It's about selling your policy for public buying, because it is that public buying of your policy that will give you the currency you need to keep governing by procuring another term in office. So I say this to your question, that even if it was, now let me be very clear, I am not saying for a fact that this tape is genuine. So I am not admitting it, but I'm going on the assumption it is. So we're discussing the assumption of the tape, and I'm not discussing any admission of this tape. Even if there's a discussion to retain persons to work, we have to break down the elements contained in the statement. And the statement was, we have 13 already, so then we need to get, I think it's 5 more, 7 more, 3 more, but there's some number of how much more must come. And the voice that resembles Zia Hackett's voice said, no, these people have already been volunteering, They don't mind volunteering to do it. But some of them will like an 8 to 4 job. That seemed to me, and it should be reasonable to the man in the Clapham omnibus, that is two distinguished issues. Because the way you procure people to work in the public sector, I don't think no secretary could go to an administrator and tell the administrator, take on this person because we want her to do some blogging for us. That person must have a job title. There must be a vote attached to that job title. There'll be some requirements for that person or persons. I imagine when it's a contract officer, short-term contract, so there are requirements for that. Those requirements must be met to a public service standard. That person will have some duties to perform in the public sector. While in the public sector, that person will have some supervision from the public sector. And if that person is tardy, or that person goes on a frolic doing political work as opposed to the work of the public sector, then there are remedies for that. So that is a separate issue. So if persons wish to be employed and politicians wish to employ, and I want to make this very clear, I make no apologies for this, and politicians wish to employ supporters of their policy, and very often we confuse supporting the policy of a political party with being, and calling them loosely, political sycophants. So they're hiring sycophants. Now I imagine that may have taken place. I imagine it will take place again. But the important thing is to distinguish the difference. So if politicians wish to hire supporters of their policy while they are in administrative governance and so, and that is one issue. There's a process for that. And that individual, in continuance of the support of their support rather for their party, and further, in observance of the Constitution that gives the right to join political party and express political views. Those are two separate issues. So I see absolutely no real issue there. Again, it's nitpicking, because those who are saying they were fired because they are PNM, I was fired because I'm a PNM. And those same persons are saying, don't hire these people because you have to help me this. Because I understand there's some new party in Tobago. What's the name of it now?
The party information, the TPP.
Right. So if those who were fired because they say, I was fired because I'm PNM, but don't hire them because they are TPP, then we have a moral dilemma there.
So the question I want to get from you, because you were very in terms of your life, kind of put out some very serious issues. Are you therefore saying and alluding to the fact that what is being purported to be a major issue or concern for some here, if you look within the former administration as well as even the current governance that you spoke to in Trinidad, that you can pinpoint persons who similarly continue to carry out that kind of narrative? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Because you alluded to that on the live as well.
And let me say this. Now, I never purported or offered myself to be a holy person, but trust me, I know most people won't believe it, but trust me, I genuinely have fear for God. I'm not saying I'm righteous, I'm not saying I'm holy, but I have fear for God. So I won't lie on the dead. I won't lie on the dead. I know persons who receive, and I won't, that's why I call the name on the life, and in hindsight, maybe I should not. But I know persons who receive, and I didn't say hear about or assume. I know persons who receive from the PNM millions of dollars to engage in political propaganda and strategy for the PNM. He's dead now. I know one that is currently living, and those two are my friends, but lest I be accused of being biased, the fact that I call the names on the live, then maybe I'll do it. One was Gladiator. The other one is my real friend, my darling, my right hand. That's Aisha Wells. And those things are normal par for the course. But I want to challenge Trinidad, well, Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago. I want to challenge them with this. There's a woman in this country, I won't call the name, because I know that Rhea is a delicate person, not rough at all, nice Christian lady. She don't appear to like rough conversation. I won't call her name. But there is a person in this country, for now we'll just call her the multicolored hair woman, who receives money from the NLCB under the garif that she's a crisis consultant, a crisis public relation consultant, whatever that means. And she also recently announced, so I'm repeating her, announced that she's a consultant with the Ministry of Finance. If you go at NLCB now or at the Ministry of Finance and ask for that person, they'll tell you they're not here because they don't have offices there. But where you will find them, where you will find that person, that multicolored hair woman, where you will find her is on social media ad nauseum, daily, nightly, attacking anything and anybody that is opposed to the PNM. Those things have always been par for the course. There's a PNM handbook. If I were a millennial, I would have found a way to pull it up. I have it on the phone, and I don't want to interfere with the phone because I don't want us to get muted. I just don't know what to do, so I'm not doing anything. But there's a PNM handbook that is very clear in the handbook among some of the duties of constituency officers. And one is very clear, to spread the propaganda of the leader and the party. Because propaganda has since become a bad word, a filthy word, only because Farley used it. And I want to make it clear, Farley is not my friend. I have no friend in the THA executive. It has only become a bad word because he used it. Everybody uses it, everybody does it, because that is the nature, that is the task, that is the politician sitting in a room discussing strategies that involve propaganda and setting the narrative. Created this outcry by politicians who do it on a daily basis. I think what we're really dealing here with is that Farley did it. And because he's doing it, it might add strength to his political capital if his strategies work. But everybody do it.
You have to ensure here, Mr. Thomas, that we get a hold of that handbook to which you referred. We would love to get a hold.
But I just don't want to interfere with the phone to pull it up and show it. It's because, as I said, I'm not a millennial. So do you have a political party that printed it as a duty and a task to their constituency officers?
All right.
And you have a recording with another party discussing it. Sorry?
No, I said that's a very strong allegation there. I just have to make it clear that these are the views of Barrington, Skippy, Thomas, and not the views of Tobago Updates.
I have no difficulty with that, and I'll go further to say that handbook I'm speaking about, I was able to trace it because that handbook was circulated on social media.
I'm not getting that. Tobago Love says, Rhea, it's all over Facebook. And Tintin Jack says, don't worry, Rhea, I have it. So, and Mr. Thomas Skippy, you say here that you have no stake in this. You
No, I
said
have no
that you
stake
are
in this.
neutral in all of this, and your position, you're starting from a very neutral position. What is next for you? Do we see a year from now, 6 months from now, that you're aligning yourself in one of these very said local Tobago parties? Do we see Skippy back in the political arena as an independent? What can we expect from you?
What is next for me? When this show is over, I'm going and have breakfast. And after having breakfast, I have some work to do and I have people to see. I have scheduled them in half an hour intervals. And after that, I imagine that should take me to 1 o'clock. And then I go up and meet my friend Jack Warner. We go and drink rum and play all fours. In response to getting involved in Tobago politics in the next year and so, I don't think that will happen. The reality is that when I was young, I spent most of my youth involved in political activism and all of that. And I want to spend the rest of the time to deal with me and that kind of thing right now.
Okay.
So in response, I actually, now, nothing is impossible. And again, I know in politics, a politician say nothing impossible is, if a politician tell me, well, nothing is impossible, I know he mean yes. He can't fool me. But I'm genuinely telling you, while nothing is impossible, I personally have no ambition for Tobago politics. I have serious ambition though, and I have serious concern, and I'll always be vigilant concerning Tobago's development.
Okay.
So we have
Thank
real
you.
issues to deal with, I had to prefer to be on set this morning, and I had to be in the airport all night last night, since 2 o'clock this morning, trying to see if I see somebody I know. And that should not be the arrangements for traveling between Trinidad and Tobago. This is one country, and freedom of movement is a constitutional thing. And it would seem to me that rather than Reginald Dumas and Anthony James and Kelvin Morris and Dennis waste time on this nonsense issue, which is really par for the course in politics, they ought to meet with Farley and say, listen, the THA should have a fleet of planes and an inter-island service of its own. Let us find a way to do it. I am not in transportation business, but I do
Thank
know
you.
that transportation is on the schedule of the THA. And
Thank
since
you.
it's on the schedule of the THA, COVID have caused a number of companies all over the world that have thousands of planes maintaining daily because they just cannot get the capital to strike up back. You know how much companies would relish the opportunity to come to partner with a
Thank
state
you.
agency to set up business. We have real issues to deal with. And politicians doing their work in a room, which involve strategy and propaganda and that sort of thing,
Thank
ought
you.
not to be no issue. And right now I'm wondering, let me tell you, I have property in Tobago, a piece of land
Thank
in
you.
Tobago.
I know,
And
Skippy, we wish that we could continue with you this morning, but we're
Yeah,
out of
that's what
time. We are certainly out of time, but we will make arrangements to have you chat with us. Hopefully, you'll be able to get that flight to Tobago and be sitting on set with us, and this would not be a virtual conversation.
yeah. Well,
Yes?
as I said, I'm not a millionaire. So have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
All
All the
right, thank
best to
you
you.
very much there.
All the best to you.
And Rhea, I think the amazing thing about our viewers, in less than some seconds of me making the statement, I have seen several messages coming in via, as politicians say, it came to my mailbox via WhatsApp and my Facebook inbox, and I am actually reading this handbook and information, which is quite interesting, Rhea, and I know certainly this is going to be added to the mix and the existing conversation, which would have just been introduced there by Barrington, and it's now up on screen, making reference to this scenario. And this appears to be out of, as the heading says above, People's National Movement Handbook for Officers of the Constituency.
Yes, I'm getting
And
it here, Julian. I'm getting it here as well.
And you're seeing it in the final paragraph there, which is the information that was just referenced by Barrington, Skippy, Thomas Carrington. in the circumstances regarding very interesting, Rhea. Rhea, you may be seeing it a little clearer there. You're seeing what it is referring to directly in terms of the very last paragraph.
I am indeed. It says, and so I charge you with those 6 responsibilities: loyalty to the party, paying your party's way, serving as election agent and propagandist of the party, practicing interracialism, selecting candidates with care, relieving the strain on the political leader. All right, these are the duties of an election year.
So certainly, you see what I'm talking about, Rhea. This conversation continues to get. The elements will continue to be added. Very, very interesting.
Yes.
In terms of how this will be, spoken to, and the context in which this will certainly be addressed by the People's National Movement as well. Very interesting perspective there again expressed by Skippy joining us on set this morning.
Most definitely, Julien, and I really want to thank him for that, for the information, for the conversation, because it was a good conversation. But we've got to leave it there for this morning, for this segment. We've got lots more coming up on the Tobago Updates morning show. Julien, I'm not sure if you're going to be joining us for the rest of the show this morning, but we've got to leave it there for now.
Once the technology allows, we're on the inside, Rhea.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Viewers, coming up next this morning, we're chatting with Lakan C. Prasad, Welfare Rehabilitation Services Manager of the Blind Welfare Association, and Niall Manswell, who is a client musician of the Blind Welfare Association. And this morning, we're going to focus on Love Your Eyes, Walkathon and Health Fair. They're going to be joining us on set just after the break. So viewers, this is your opportunity to share the live, Julien.
Share the live.
Share the live.
Share the live.
Share the live.